Today's guest is Hanna Bang, VP of Data-Driven Experiences at L'Oreal. Over the past 20 years, Hanna has built an extraordinary career inside some of the world's biggest brands, leading marketing strategies that shape how millions of people experience beauty, retail, and technology. But behind the impressive titles and global campaigns, Hanna's story is also about the reality of corporate life, the roles that looked glamorous but maybe weren't, the moments she wasn't prepared for but took on anyway, and the lessons learned about power, mentorship, and representation along the way. As a leader and dynamic voice in the industry, Hanna has not only driven transformation in marketing, leveraging AI, personalization, and digital innovation, but also made it a priority to lift others as she's risen. In this conversation, she shares what 2 decades in corporate really looks like: the sacrifices, the wins, the behind-the-scenes grind, and the advice she wishes she knew in her 20s. Hanna, welcome to the Her Workplace Unfiltered podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to just learn more about your career journey and what your experiences in corporate have been.
Yes. I mean, it's definitely been a learning journey. I think I appreciate the learning journey more now, especially as I'm further in my career. But it's been an exciting roller coaster of events throughout my career, for sure.
Yeah. So take me back to the beginning. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What were those first moments of building a corporate career?
So I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I went to the University of Washington, go Dogs. Coming out of college, I thought I wanted to be an art dealer. I thought I wanted to sell art. So my background in school was actually art history, and European history, which is actually so far off from where I am today. I wanted to do all of the kind of art things and lean more into my creative side. But it was really kind of later when I started to think about what my longer term objectives were. I think along with a lot of other women at that stage just thought that I wanted to be in fashion. I wanted to be a buyer. That was the kind of trajectory I was really gunning for. And so I joined Nordstrom as a salesperson on the sales floor. I did that for a few years and just really quickly realized that I don't want to do this. This is not, the retail side of it was fun, but it just, I don't know, there was something missing, or it just wasn't as exciting as you think, or as I'd glamorized it in my mind. And I think that's actually when I made the pivot into kind of the digital world, where I felt like that was kind of the next frontier. I mean, this really dates me, but it was back when Nordstrom.com first started. And so I joined the digital organization, and I really quickly realized that this is actually it. This feels really exciting. It was fast paced. It was changing. It was innovative. And I kind of fell into the corporate world in that way, and was with Nordstrom for a little over 10 years, I believe.
Okay.
And then, kind of hit a point in my career where I felt like I'm either going to be here at this company forever and I need to commit to it and accept it, or it was a moment where I really needed to ask myself if I wanted to diversify my experience. And that's actually when I joined the Walt Disney Company in LA.
Oh, cool.
Worked for them for about 4 years, managing kind of the digital business for the US there. And, I think it's interesting because it's Nordstrom's a pretty big organization, but the Walt Disney Company is obviously bigger. And so I would say that my learnings around the corporate world really started to kick off kind of in that place as you start to navigate kind of more complex organizations, and, started to step into different aspects of my leadership. And, I was there for a little bit, kind of figuring out, who I was as a leader, who I wanted to become. And then lo and behold, now I'm with L'Oreal, and I've been with the organization for a little over 3 years.
Okay.
It might be a little bit more. I might be undercounting it. But
time flies.
Yeah, time does fly. I know. I'm pretty sure I said I was 38 for 3 years. So time does fly. It's been a really interesting journey, experiencing all the different things as a leader, as an individual contributor, managing a team, not managing a team. and kind of how that actually changes over the course of time and over the course of your career.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. And like you said, it really does take experiencing a role to understand where your skill sets lie, the things you like, the things that you don't like, and living that experience to then decide, is this something that I want to keep doing?
100%. I can't stress enough the value I think I was really lucky to experience in both the good and the bad. Because I think, you think a lot about all the good things you want to accomplish and all the successes that you want to have. But I think what really shapes me now and what has shaped me in the past are the people that were really challenging, or maybe I had a boss that was tough, or, I think we all kind of experience a variety of those kinds of situations when you're in the corporate space. But it was really learning how to navigate those things and understanding and figuring out how I wanted to show up later if I was ever in that role. I mean, it was really those moments that I think really shaped who I am as a leader today, which I think is so valuable, the good and the bad.
So going back to the beginning of your career with Nordstrom, working on the sales side and living that experience of, okay, here's where my skills lie. Here are some things that I don't necessarily like about this role. What was that moment or like experience that you faced that led you to make that transition to more of a data-driven role?
I think for me, actually, there wasn't really a moment where I felt like, oh, I really don't like it. I want to do something else. I think there was a point in my career, even early on, where I made a really intentional decision around wanting to diversify my experiences. So I think because I was younger, I was earlier in my career, I made a really conscious decision to be a really, really kind of generalist style individual, because I think as I thought about where I wanted to go, my approach with stuff like that has always been, how can I make myself look different in a world of people who are essentially as accomplished or as experienced or as successful, or, whatever the case is. And for me in that moment, it was recognizing there may be things that I don't necessarily want to lean into, but every single thing that I did over the course of my career was intentional. And the fact that I wanted to spend time in marketing, I wanted to spend time in media. I spent a couple years in project management or product management because I thought I wanted to be in tech for a hot second. But I think I've had such a diversified background and experience, which in the moment, I think oftentimes feels like, am I just kind of wandering? Am I lost? But now if I look back on it, it's all those things that I did to vary my background that I feel like make me different when I need to be different.
Yeah. And that makes sense, being in maybe a position that is not as glamorized, or you're doing more of the heads down work, you're doing the behind the scenes work. It's figuring out how to build your influence.
Yes.
And get seen.
Yes. I think it's also the unlock for me about what the word influence means. And I will say that I actually really unlocked this late in my career, because I think the word influence means something different to everybody. But for me, it meant power or control, when my personal unlock was more around the fact that influence for me was street cred. In the corporate space, how is my water cooler personality, hallway reputation, my street cred amongst my peers, my other leaders, other executives? It's once I unlocked that influence was actually credibility, and that it comes from earning and demonstrating your value and the impact that you can have on whatever you're doing. It was easier for me to unlock how to accomplish that, or, how to be influential in the corporate space.
And how did you go about doing that? Was that engaging with mentors and sponsors and sharing more feedback about your accomplishments, the projects you are working on? How did you go about kind of taking that next step
Yeah.
in unlocking that opportunity to be further seen?
For me, it was I needed to understand what my blocker was. And I'm actually super open about where I feel like I'm bad, whether that's, in technical things or even just like from a leadership development perspective, because it's like the influence thing was a blocker for me. I could not, I mean, my friends call it short circuiting when I just like cannot process the information or I just like don't understand how to take action on it. But it like the word really made me short circuit because I couldn't figure out why some people had influence and other people didn't. And, it's like I feel like I have all this value to add, but for some reason it's like not landing. And, it took a lot of personal work and being like really open and honest with myself about like, what are you doing and what are you not doing and how are you showing up in front of other people? And it was like really doing a deep dive on my reputation amongst my peers, amongst, my leadership team, and working with an executive coach to really kind of unpack what the blockers really were. And, I spent a lot of time trying to understand how to identify that. Because for me, it's just kind of a part of like, how do you take your leadership to the next level, which is kind of what I was trying to do. But it was such a barrier for me that I think working with mentors and people that I trust to get like really, really candid feedback about how I was showing up was very, very invaluable.
And what would you say those barriers were?
Ego.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was tough to acknowledge, but I think once you do it, maybe it's a little bit better. But for me, it was the unlock was I need to kind of get over myself. Like there was a moment where, I had really close mentors and friends tell me like, girlfriend, you got to get over yourself. Like, put in the work, do the thing. Cause I mean, I think for a lot of people, especially when you reach a certain point in your career, there's almost this like unspoken thing of like, I've already put in the groundwork. Like now I need to now I can delegate or now I can sit back. But it's actually kind of the reverse. The work that you do looks different than what you did when you were junior, but the work still needs to be done in terms of like growth and your leadership development, how you want to show up for those around you.
Yes.
And it requires acknowledgement that I had an ego and the recognition that like I needed to calm down.
Well, and two, it's that transition of it no longer being about you.
Correct.
It's about your team and the people that you're managing, the people that are around you, and learning how to elevate them.
Yes.
It's hard to make
so
that
hard.
transition.
I think it's the hardest transition, hard stop in anybody's leadership journey is that, I mean, and I talk about it all the time with my team where it's, the leap from being a contributor to somebody who helps manage the contributors is just such a shift.
Yeah.
And it's such a mental evolution that needs to happen that like nobody really talks about. Like that leap from, individual contributor to like being a team leader or a manager. It's such a change in how you have to think and operate. But oddly, there isn't a ton of, I feel like, support in any like organization, big or small, at that kind of milestone, which I think is such a big opportunity, women, men, for anybody at that level.
So at what point in time in your career is this evolution happening? Is this when you transition to start working at Disney, when you started becoming a manager? When did all of this start to percolate?
For me, I think that there have been multiple iterations. I think as I started to manage a bigger team at a different seniority, like Disney's a good example where I think that's probably when I went through my first, let's call it workplace identity crisis of like, how I've operated, the things that I've done have got me here. But for some reason, I could not figure out why it wasn't getting me to the next level. Right. And so I think that was probably my first big barrier that I needed to unlock. And I think it was in that moment I realized the thing that got you here can't be the thing that gets you to the next place, right? It has to be iterative. And it seems so obvious in hindsight, but it was such an unlock for me. I'm a very big advocate of therapy. And I had a therapist who said something to me that it really helped me kind of reframe it. It was intended to be more personal, but it has such applications professionally where it's like, I couldn't let go of the fact that this is who I am. This is the type of leader I am. Like, it needs to work, but she helped me really understand like Italian food, essentially comprised of similar ingredients. It's cheese, it's pasta, it's sauce, but depending on how you combine them and how you put it all together, sometimes it can be spaghetti and sometimes it can be lasagna. And so it was this like weird unlock for me of, it's not about letting go of who you are or who you want to become, but it's recognizing that the combination of all of the different ingredients just needs to look different as you evolve throughout your career. And I think
love that.
That's the unlock of what growth as a leader needed to look like. And I think ever since then, that's always been kind of my lens. Any role I've gotten after that, any job, anywhere, it's always been this, okay, great. Like I know what my strengths are. I know what my values are, but how do I reshape it and remold it so that it evolves and it grows, but still like holds true to who I am and my authenticity as a leader.
I love that. And I want to talk more about just mentorship and sponsorship. How did you develop those relationships along the way? Obviously, there may have been times where you felt alone in this journey, but how did you develop those relationships? How did they support you? And I know too, you're a big advocate of women supporting women. So how did those opportunities and evolutions kind of build as you're growing and evolving and developing your leadership skills?
I think it's really important to have people who will say your name in rooms that you're not in until you are in those rooms and you can say your name yourself.
Love that.
And
I haven't heard the second liner of that.
I think that's
great.
important. That's important to me. There was a point where I had somebody say to me, but shouldn't you just be at the table now? And I was like, oh, you're right. I should just be at the table. But I think it's really important. And I think for me, recognizing people are all kind of experiencing similar things, even though you feel isolated, I think was a really big an aha for me. And just kind of like we were talking about earlier, the stage, especially kind of mid-corporate career for women can be so daunting because I think there are a lot of resources that exist out there, whether you're straight out of college, and then there's a lot of resources out there for more senior level executives, boards, whatever. But I think there's just this like middle pocket, which obviously I know where there's just such an opportunity to have the conversation. And I think I say it that way because I don't necessarily think it's just about like mentorship. And I think it was you actually that said it on one of your episodes of like, just because you're a mentor doesn't mean that you're actually not a mentee. Right. Because it's like, I learn all the time from people who I mentor. It just looks a little bit different, but it's such a give and take relationship. And I think it's the relationship part that was the unlock for me of like recognizing it's about getting to know people, where their barriers are, and just having a conversation so that, we can just talk through how we can help one another so that I have allies in rooms that I'm not in. Yeah.
And you're right. It's the women that are in those middle management roles, or even the women that are getting to the managerial roles, the people that are there that are trying to get to the leadership roles. What's so interesting about that period of life, your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, is you're experiencing so much personally as well. And I would say that that's like one of the most challenging times, and to not have that support is difficult. And obviously, the work that we're doing at her workplace is really trying to fill that gap and void. I want to talk about a little bit further regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, and digging into what are some of those challenges that you saw others faced, and what are some challenges that you have faced being an underrepresented leader in these corporate structures?
Yeah. I will say the one question I get asked all the time, and it's usually by, younger Asian women early in their career or even mid in their career. I get asked all the time, how are you so confident, outspoken? You're so decisive, like you have such a strong presence or personality. Like, how do you do that? And it's such an interesting question because I think culturally, Asian women are stereotypically maybe quieter or, I don't know if demure is the right word, but I think oftentimes I find that a lot of junior women who are of any Asian background have that same question of like, how do I get my voice to be heard, or how do I learn to speak up? And for me, it's twofold. The first thing is I give all credit to my dad, who made me always order when we went to McDonald's when I was younger. I think that really taught me how to be outspoken in times of serious need when we're ordering Happy Meals. So that's number one. But I think second, I think there's a conversation to be had around what confidence actually means. I think people think that, or at least the people that I've had conversations with think that confidence is like a personality trait.
Right.
And it's 1000% not. It is a muscle that needs to be developed that, I work on all the time. Confidence is just something that I have to learn to build. And it's also, I think, something where I have to remind myself that it doesn't come from being decisive or feeling like you have power. It's more about the recognition of what my value add is and can be, and then building to that. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And confidence is ever evolving.
Yeah. 100%.
It's something that can change. And as you grow, your confidence evolves and grows and changes with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it also just looks different at every stage of your career. I mean, and life, just like you were saying. It's just, for me, I think it's interesting because it was understanding what helps me feel more confident, which might look different for me than it does with you. For me, confidence looks like being in jobs where I'm the underdog, which forces me to upskill really fast, right? To learn something net new and be a player in the conversation where maybe I wasn't before, but now I've made it a conscious decision to be educated and informed in whatever I didn't know before. That to me is something that helps fuel my confidence.
For someone that's looking to further build their confidence, what advice would you give them?
I would say that the most important thing is recognizing the difference between whether or not you're not confident or if you are just learning or uninformed. Because I think sometimes what ends up happening is that the two get convoluted. So it's like you start a new job, you're not the expert you used to be, and all of a sudden it like really rattles you to your core and it makes you not confident about how you show up, or you start to second guess, yourself. And I think in those moments, I oftentimes give the feedback or commentary around confidence is separate. It is a value, but what you're experiencing right now is just more like the unknown, where there just is a little bit of an upskill that needs to happen, which is a quick solve, right? You just need to make the effort to learn it. But I think recognizing the difference between the two of it, for me, I found to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's like insecurities and confidence is oftentimes blended, but I think it's different.
And the situation that you're in too.
100%.
I love how you emphasize that of you could still be confident, but you may just be in a situation that is bringing up those insecurities.
Yes. And I also like to reframe it as much as possible in my mind of I might be in a new situation, but there is value in showing up as the underdog.
Yes.
Right? Like I take so much pride in this is a weird statement, but it's like I like being underestimated. I like being the underdog. I like going into roles or jobs or tables where people think and or assume I'm bringing A, B, and C to the table. And then for me, there's a period where, okay, great, I recognize or I just kind of clock, okay, you think I'm this, this, and this. And then I make it a priority to, learn, accelerate my growth or, whatever those gaps are that I know I'm seeing that I have, and then quietly show up not as the underdog anymore. I think there's such power in that and such value, which then to me adds to my confidence. So it is all interconnected. But the reframe there I think is really important is there's power in being an underdog.
Yes. I love how you say that and just share that because I've definitely felt that way too in my own career of being in corporate, being one of 18 women out of 250 plus men in one office.
Yes.
And I too took a lot of pride in, like, I loved it when the guys would say, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Or you're not able to get there.
Right.
Or you're not going to make it here unless you do this.
Yeah.
And I loved being in those situations where I could really showcase my worth and my skills and what I had to bring to the table.
Yes. I think nothing fuels women more than like, oh, well, you can't do that. Like, okay, well, I'll show you.
Yeah.
I think it's like such a triggering comment.
Yeah, I know.
But no, there's such power in it and such value. I think I hear a lot about, and I think in corporate spaces, you talk a lot about like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I still do it now where it's like, I have to reframe the notion of imposter syndrome to me is just an indicator that you're in the right place, where it's like you are coming into a job that you're not the expert. There's room for me to learn. There's room for me to like become a different leader and challenge myself. It doesn't mean that all of the things that are going to happen are rainbows and butterflies, but I am motivated by the challenge and I'm motivated by growth and learning. And so if I feel like there gets to be a point where I don't feel like an imposter anymore, it's like a quick indicator that like, okay, maybe it's time to start to reevaluate what my next step is.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like that reframing of such like a negative connotation and turning it into something that, no, this is a good thing that you're feeling challenged.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think it's just one of those things too, where it's like, I'm sure men out there feel imposter syndrome. I don't want to take that away from them, but I just wonder how much more prevalent that feeling is in women, because it's that stat, right? Of a woman needs to feel like she ticks 90% of all the job requirement boxes before she applies versus, men do 20%, whatever the number is. And I just think that's so crazy because I can probably count on one hand the number of men I've worked with where once you actually start working with them, I'm truly like, oh man, they're great. Most of the time it's like, oh, we're the same. I may be better. So.
Yeah, I think with them, it's just they move faster. They do have those insecurities that come up, but they just ignore it. And they go. Whereas women, we think a lot more and we're more strategic and we want to make sure that the next move is the right move.
Yes.
And not that that's a bad thing.
100%.
But it seems like that's really the difference.
Yes.
And it shows up sometimes in that way.
Yeah. And I think it's that notion of like perfectionism.
Yeah.
Which and maybe this is a hot take, but I'm not a fan of, nor do I believe in perfectionism. A lot of it coming from the fact that to make something perfect implies an end. Right?
Yeah.
So and I think that if you really stop and think about it, it's such a bizarre notion of like, oh, well, I'm going to wait until this thing is absolutely perfect. Then that means that there's literally no room for growth.
Yep.
It's more the shifting to, I want to fail fast and fail efficiently, and like redefining that failure is actually just a moment to like recalibrate. And there's such an advantage to you making the mistake quickly, even if it's a series of mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a celebration that needs to happen around, mistakes you make throughout your career, maybe because you decided quickly, or it doesn't matter what the reason is, but it's like you making the mistake already puts you so far ahead of those who are still trying to make it perfect before like executing against it.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of the reframe, but I think it's that same reframe, right? Where it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect because I always want to be better.
Yeah.
And so I want to just do it and try it, learn from it, and then really quickly recalibrate to make sure that I'm constantly evolving as opposed to feeling like there is a static definition that I have hit and now then what?
Yeah. Failing is a good thing.
Yes.
I will say I love to fail.
Yes. And it doesn't, I get it. Like, I don't want to like,
scary.
yes, I don't want to dismiss the fact that like it's sucky when it's like happening.
Yeah.
But I think I have to constantly remind myself, okay, great. So what did I get out of this? And I'm like very competitive. And so in my head, I'm always like, okay, what did I get out of this? And what is the other person not going to get out of it? And how do I use that to an advantage?
Yeah.
And I think that's really helped me figure out how to like evolve and grow in both like my career, but also in my kind of leadership journey.
So I want to talk more about technology and how kind of innovation plays a role in the work that you do and also with changes that occur. How do you kind of mix the two with innovating and then facing these changes and growth and failures along the way? Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that innovation doesn't just mean tech. And I think for me, that's the biggest differentiation because innovation, yes, 100%. There's constant innovation and evolution from a technology perspective, from a data perspective, obviously, so much happening in the AI space. But there's the other side of the equation where innovation also needs to happen as like a frame of thought with the people that you work with. Because I don't think it means anything or won't mean as much if all that's innovating or evolving is the tech and the people are still not either understanding or know how to activate against it or apply it and also thinking in an innovative way. And so even as I'm working with like my teams, I think a lot of the conversations we have, like, yes, there's so much changing in the kind of technology space, but how are you innovating your existing kind of ways of thinking, how you understand data, how you understand technology and its applications? I think there has to be kind of a two-sided conversation about it so that then when the two marry, the innovative person can innovate the tech and figure out how to like apply it to actually use all of the capabilities that are changing.
So it's growing with the technology.
Correct.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how you say that you encourage your team to think that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so easy to kind of get into a habitual headspace, especially if you've like maybe been in your job for a second or, you feel like you know what needs to be done. I think that is the most like dangerous territory to be in. And my team knows I'm a pusher. And so I think we've built enough of a relationship to know where they'll tell me to kind of stop pushing if I'm over pushing. But I think I encourage them to constantly challenge, okay, how are you existing today? Is this good? Was this good? And how can it be better? It doesn't mean that you didn't do it right the first time. It just means you actually did do it right. And now you can make it even better. So why wouldn't we?
I do the same with my team. It's very much about moving fast, especially in a startup environment. And really constantly identifying what's working, what's not working. Let's get rid of what's not working. Let's come back to the table, lean into what's working and try a new thing. It's hard to lead a team that way, to encourage others that may operate more with like a stagnant, they like status quo. They don't like a lot of change. So sometimes it can be difficult leading them that way, but it provides so much of that opportunity for growth.
Yes, 100%. I think the hardest thing for me is figuring out how to create the circumstance and the culture with your team where there is a safety associated to the fact that there is change happening and that you can be uncomfortable with it. And if you have feels against it, great. Come into my office, close the door, let's put a timer on. You can vent about it for 5 minutes. Like whatever you need to do, like I'm there. But I think it is so important to make sure that you have your team's buy-in. Otherwise, to your point, it's so difficult to move things forward and really, really kind of drive change quickly at the speed that it needs to evolve.
Yeah. So I want to talk more about leadership and leading a team and managing people. For someone that is just starting to step into a managerial role, what advice would you give them?
2 things. Number 1, don't let the title go to your head. I think the biggest mistake I see in new managers or early managers is there's this preconceived notion of how you need to act once you start to manage people. And I find that I've observed that it's the biggest kind of pitfall, because instead of just being there and learning in your role, all of a sudden it's like they show up and, they have to act a certain way or speak a different way. Like I just think that there's so much of that. And I've had so many conversations with people that I've managed who have had like their first, team member or first person that's a direct report, where I constantly have to remind them, like, don't overthink it. This is just the business of people. You're just building a relationship in a little bit of a different way, but you're just getting to know the person and figuring out how you can work with them and alongside of them and help them achieve whatever they want to achieve. But it's just be a human.
Yeah.
And just, it's about being a person. I feel like if I think back to the best leaders that I've ever had, they're the ones that are just normal people who are there to help you remove barriers, but they were never, the like, I'm a manager, I need to like, I don't do this, or it's beneath me. Like those aren't the leaders that resonated with me. It was the ones that was like, okay, great. What do you need?
Yeah.
What should we do? Should we do this together? Oh no, you got it? Okay, great. Let me know how I can help you. Like just the real individuals. And a lot of that just comes from, I think, being a person and just remembering that you're just building relationships with these people that you work with.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of goes back to the conversation earlier about recognizing, like, is it an ego? Is it your ego showing up in terms of like how you need to act or what you think you need to do? Or, there's, I think, things to kind of unpack when it comes to that.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's not about you anymore.
Exactly.
It's about lifting up other people so that they can be and perform at their best selves.
Yes.
And a lot of that is being yourself, showing up authentically.
Yes. Which is so difficult.
Yeah.
Definitely some people crack that not really early. I am who I am, and it is super, super important to me that I show up as a really authentic leader, not just for like consistency or whatever, but I think it also allows me to bring my best self forward.
Yeah.
But it comes with its challenges. Like, I think I would say that, like, from a leadership perspective, authenticity is my superpower. But just like any superpower, there is an Achilles heel, and there's like there's like a dark side to it that you have to accept. And I think as long as you are open to that and, being really conscious, I think it can be a really great benefit to you as a people manager or a leader to lead through your authentic self. And people see that. People recognize that. And, your team resonates with it.
So we close every episode with 3 quick questions to kind of hear more about how our guests are leading on their own terms. The first question I want to ask you, and this relates to our conversation about leading people. And a big important part of that is taking care of yourself in the process. So what's one thing that you do each day to stay grounded?
I box. I've been
Oh.
boxing for 6 years.
Love that.
We can call it rage management. We can call it mental stability management. We can call it whatever we want. But I think it's really important to make sure that you have an outlet to kind of like handle your own stuff. And for me, that's super important. And it's something that I find a lot of joy in. I'm not looking to be like a competitive boxer. That's not what this is about. But it's just more of like this space where I can just
let it out.
Yes.
Love that. What is something that you used to think was necessary for success, but you don't anymore?
The definition of success is not finite, and success looks different at every stage and every era of your life. And I think it's recognizing that it's actually really great to redefine what that success looks like at every stage of your career. Because I think what I thought success was going to be 10 years from now definitely didn't look like this. I wanted to be an art broker. Like, my God, I'm in like the most opposite field. So, if I look at that definition from 10 years ago, then I'm probably a failure, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Like, I feel like I'm doing okay. So I think it's just recognizing that, you can redefine it and that success isn't finite.
Isn't it funny too, just how way back when you thought you were going to be something else?
Yes. I thought I wanted to be a wedding planner for a while.
100%. Maybe that will come back around.
I know, maybe. 100% motivated by J-Lo. I really thought I wanted to be a wedding planner. And I was actually in the industry for a while, like way before I joined the corporate space. But look at me now.
Well, mine was a politician, and
really?
I don't plan to ever go down that road.
Yeah.
So.
That's so funny.
Last question for you. What does building a career on your own terms mean to you?
I think it means that having mentors is valuable, but they are a point of feedback and influence, but not a decision maker. I think that it's important to recognize in almost a calculated way, and maybe this is the data side in me really kicking in, but building my career on my own terms means I need to sit down and do the work and be really calculated about, okay, what skills do I need to build in order to get to whatever the next step is? And it's being really intentional about what choices I'm making based on what stage of my career. So earlier on, the name of the game was breadth. I wanted experience. I wanted diversity of experience. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to accrue a plethora of just time and different things. Versus after a while in kind of era 2, it's the recognition that like, okay, great. Now I have ABC building blocks. Where do I want to lean in and where do I not want to lean in based on where I know I want to go at that time? And then just continuing to kind of, again, revisit like, what does that look like? And is this next step the right step? And is it going to take me to the next kind of role or space I want to be in my career? And just being really intentional about how I'm building my future. I guess it's a really strategic and like calculated approach, which I think is a little bit uncommon, but
no, I think that's great. Yeah.
It's been a really helpful kind of perspective to kind of look at yourself on paper and just see like, okay, where do I have gaps? Right. And then figure out, okay, if these are my gaps, how am I going to build it? Where do I want to go? And what does that next step look like?
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. And where can people find you, follow you, get connected with you?
Yes. The best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I'm super, super happy to chat and talk through anything. And obviously I am mentoring at her workplace, which has been fantastic. So great place to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and appreciate you sharing your story and journey.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you.